Welcome to Conversations from the Continent with the Movement for Economic and Social Development in Africa, MESTA. This is a platform where we engage with Africa's most inspiring thought leaders, professionals, and doers that are driving transformation on the continent. On this podcast, we tell African stories, discuss solutions for African challenges, and shape positive African narratives to mentor and inspire our listeners. In our summer season, we will cover a wide range of topics across different fields, including entrepreneurship, healthcare, activism, nonprofit work, entertainment, and politics. My name is Meamande Wamkwamba, and I am your host. Our guest on today's episode is none other than Madame Doris Kathia, a Kenyan human rights defender who works on promoting sexual and reproductive health rights in Africa. She is also the founder of Raise Your Voice CBO, a non-profit organization that focuses on empowering adolescents, girls, boys, and women in all their diversities. Doris, welcome. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Mayor. Thank you really very much for inviting me to your podcast. And I'm looking forward for us to having this conversation.
Me too. Let's start with a quick question. What does Kathia mean? What tribe are you? Is it Kathia or Kathia?
It's Kathia, really.
Oh, it's Kathia.
And it's an animal.
Really?
Yes, it's Kathia, and it's an animal. It's I think a leopard.
You know,
and basically,
I love leopards. Go on, basically.
Yes. Yeah, basically the name is given to a child if a child before them died. So I think it's a myth or a fallacy that if you give someone's an animal's name, then they are not going to follow or die just the same way the initial child or the child before them died.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Meru Masai. I'm a mixture of Meru Masai. So yeah.
Now I know something. You know, this whole time, with these African names, and I'm a victim of that all the time with my name. Sometimes you read it according to your tongue, but it sounds different in a different language. And also, like I was saying, I love the leopard. I actually consider the leopard to be my spirit animal. So this is why we are sisters in the end. Obviously, we are just drawn to each other. Awesome. Awesome. Lusaka is okay. It's a bit warm. It's getting a bit warmer, but we're in a very hot summer. So yeah, Lusaka is doing okay. So Doris, tell us a bit about yourself. Right?
Sorry?
Tell us a bit more about yourself. Who's Doris? What's your background? How did you grow up? And what has been your journey to this point?
Wow, amazing question. And I hope that I will be able to bring it out perfectly, just like you enthusiastically asked it. So my name is Doris Kathia. I'm a Kenyan, and I am a lot of things, but over and beyond, I'm a human rights defender. I'm the founder and executive director of Raise Your Voice, which is a community-based organization working with adolescents and young people who are sex workers and queer persons, young people living with HIV and also teen mothers among the 10 to 24 years old. And how perhaps my journey has been, I grew up in a village called Meru, Kenoru. And of course, being born and raised by a single mother, who definitely was not in a position to really support us as much as she could have wanted to support us to having a good life. But of course, we had that beautiful in our own way. We enjoyed our childhood in our own way. And by God's grace, I've managed to go through my education from primary, secondary, college, and I'm now pursuing a bachelor's degree in communication studies. And back in 2022, yeah, actually back in 2019, that's when I started the organization Raise Your Voice, which was formerly known as Triple K. And I journeyed with it, but of course, because of COVID, I had to step back because entirely all this time I used to support the organization from my own pocket. We had not gotten to a point where we could bring in donors. And so it was really difficult when COVID-19 hit us. And therefore, I stepped back and, I took a break, almost 2 years break. And back in 2022 is when I was like, regardless of the fact whether I have money or not, I have a passion in supporting and really ensuring and empowering really young people. And therefore, whether I have money, whether I have donors, whether I have grants, I have to step in and, run with what I admire doing. And therefore, that's when I started and registered the organization Raise Your Voice. The initial one was not registered, of course. So now we came back in fully French, registered the organization, and, continued so and not really continued, but picked it from where we had left because we already had a relationship within the communities. We already had a relationship with the young people, the sex workers, and the queer persons within the communities where we work. And therefore, after registration and doing all the things that are required for us to continue working within the community now, we have continued with our work since 2022. Up to now, I wouldn't say that we've they really gained so much, and especially when it comes to grants. However, we are better than how we started because at least up until now, we've been able to gain, I think, over four donors. Of course, not frequent, not sustainable ones, but at least they are giving us a platform. They have given us an opportunity to grow and showcase what we can really do. Most of the work that we have been doing is ensuring that we are supporting the young people and the human rights defenders, and especially who are working around the things that the society feels like these are taboo issues. Because when it comes to sex work, when it comes to LGBTIQ, when it comes to issues of abortion, for instance, it's really has not been embraced in our society. It has not been embraced in our country, and even within the context that we work around. So there have been a lot of demonations. There have been a lot of harassment, all sorts of embarrassments and all that. And oftentimes we face a lot of challenges from the religious leaders, from the government itself, from the people within our communities, because of the work that we do. And therefore, maybe I can stop there. Basically, that is who I am, and that is where I am at the moment.
Amazing. It's an interesting journey and an interesting topic, which is something I want to ask you about. Very inspiring journey that you've had. And you've given us already a bit of an insight on Raise Your Voice, which was going to be my next question. And I think quickly what's coming out of what you wanted to say that I wanted you to speak more on, because a lot of young people are in this position where you have a passion, you have a vision for something, but you don't necessarily have the resources or the money, right? And for you to do certain things, you need money. So what has, I know you've touched already on that, but if you were to be speaking to a person that is seeking out starting their own thing and navigating a business without resources, like a non-profit organization without resources, what would you tell them? What are your, if we can go a bit deeper on that topic, what's your advice on how to navigate that?
Wow, thank you very much for that question. And I wish, honestly, well, before I started, I could have gotten someone to really speak to me about the same thing.
Right.
However, what I could tell someone who is in a position or wants to start something, but they're stuck because of finances, I would just tell them to do what their heart wants.
Mm-hmm.
I would just ask them to actually start and do it, because you never know. Most of the time it's all about money, because honestly you can't do anything without money. However, it is not always about money. People can't support you, people can't give you money if they have not already seen what you're able to do or what
Right.
you're capable of doing. And therefore it is important for you to start, then build your capacity, build your visibility, build your your brand, if I could
Right.
perhaps call it that, because that's what people looks at. I believe for us, even the donors that we have for this year alone, it's just because of what the work that we've been doing and what people are seeing either on social media or even within the communities.
Right.
And therefore we've gotten the grants that we've gotten, one because of referrals, and secondly also because of the visibility that we've created in within the socials, that what people are seeing. And even when you reach out to someone, or they get referred to you and reach out to you, they are like, we've seen this and that, is this actually you, or we are talking to the wrong person? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, that is. And once you have a conversation and actually better even explain what you're doing, because now the only thing that they seen is either through your socials or even because they've heard from somebody else. And now once I believe that maybe our profile is not as grown as we would want it to look like outside. However, we are continually building that, we are continually developing that, and ensuring that we are bringing in out the best that we are doing. However, what I would say is really people should step out from their comfort zones
Mm-hmm.
and do what they want to do. Let them do it with all that it takes, regardless whether they have money or not.
Mm.
Someone will see once once they actually start. So don't wait until you have money. Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it, and somebody will definitely be able to recognize what you're doing. Yeah.
I love what you've said, and I think that's so profound, where you say, it's all about money, but it's not always, it's all about money, but
Yeah.
it's not all about money. I think that's so profound
Yes.
because it's so true, right? In as much as you need
Yes.
money to scale up your
Yes.
operations, to make things move smoother, to increase impact, it's not always about money. You can still create impact even without that. And that's where the issue of passion.
Without money. And the truth is, Mia, people have to actually trust you before they give you their money.
Right.
And what I've also come to realize is the fact that people don't give an organization money, they give the face money. The person who is, like for instance, if I were to speak about Raise Your Voice, people don't give Raise Your Voice money. People give me money. People
They
give
give
Doris
Doris
Kathia money.
money. Right.
Because yes, because it is me that they know, it is me that they see, it is me that they hear of.
And that they
So
trust.
Raise Your Voice is
Right.
a backup. Yeah, yeah.
So it's also important to kind of develop a brand. And I think our
Yes.
striving business on this applies, not just necessarily in nonprofit work. The issue of brand building, I think, applies even in corporate spaces, in
Even
business.
across, even in businesses,
I-
yes.
As long as you are leading something, it's very
Yes.
important. And
Mm,
I was watching something earlier today where somebody was actually saying, even when you
mm,
look at uh these big billionaires that are very successful, that have now started working on social media, they're doing reels,
yes.
and they're really image building. That
Mhm.
shows you where the world is going, right?
Yes.
Because right now people are interested
Yes.
in who you are. not necessarily just a face of
Yes,
People
absolutely.
want to know who you are, what do you stand for, what value can you bring into the community, what value can you bring into the world, how do you
Absolutely.
carry yourself as a person?
Mm,
Are you trustworthy? Are you credible?
yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you have integrity? And
Mm-hmm.
do people buy into that?
Yes.
And like you said earlier, like you never know
Mm,
watching, which is another thing that I think young people need to know, right? Because when you're starting, it can be very frustrating.
yes.
You're putting all this effort.
Very frustrating, I can assure you.
You're putting all this effort, and
You'll
it's like
have
God is watching. you
sleepless
know,
nights.
but
You'll have sleepless nights. You'll be overwhelmed
right,
on a daily basis, but you still have to strive. You still have to
right.
do it. Yes.
And then, like you're saying, just do it. Before you know it, people are reaching out because they're seeing the impact that you're creating, right?
Yes.
So, I want
Yes.
us, even as we talk about impact and creating impact, right? Sometimes
Mm,
impact comes with risk,
yeah.
especially as a human rights defender. Uh,
Yes.
and I want us to unpack that a bit. Specifically
Yes.
with you that like who works with, like you've said, people that are in sensitive, I'll call them sensitive positions in society, especially in the African context, where there's a lot of
Mm,
stigma around queer
mm,
people, around sex workers, and also just around, I think, sexual and reproductive talk generally. In Africa, things like sex are not
yeah.
things that you talk about openly. Those are bedroom issues,
Sorry. Sorry.
you know? So
Yes.
so how do you deal with the risks? First of all, what are the risks you faced and how do you deal with them?
Mm. All right. Thank you very much for that question. First and foremost, many people or within our societies, um, many people really do not understand the work that is involved when it comes to to human rights work, or especially for me, because it's not just even about the human rights. I work around sexual and reproductive health and rights,
Right.
and this of course has a lot of, so sorry about that. This, of course, is associated with so much, and especially the fact that people want to, some things are really seen as taboos. People
Mhm.
think that just because you're working with or around the sexual and reproductive health, the only thing that you're doing is encouraging young people, adolescents and young people to engage into sexual activities, which is not the case. And therefore, as a human rights defender, as a person who leads an organization, most of the challenges that I've faced include the physical violence and even harm. It has gone to the extent of me, and together with my family, this has actually even rolled over to my family. And being attacked, being harassed, being sexually
Mm.
assaulted, faced a lot of atrocities and a lot of even restrictions to my freedom. And in regards to uh, um, um, attacks even at home, sorry, a lot of surveillance, a lot of being stigmatized and even smeared, both online and offline. And therefore, people think that the work that I'm doing should not be done by
Right.
anyone, especially even working around um, LGBTIQ persons. I have been called names. I have been called uh, all sorts of insults, and I have faced all sorts of atrocities for sure. I have been assaulted. I have been discriminated. I have been done a lot of things. I have been targeted, my family, and I think I've already mentioned that. And honestly, it becomes really frustrating that you wake up in the morning, you are going to work, but even as you're going to work, your life is at risk, your colleagues' life are at risk, your family's life is at risk, and anything can happen to you at any given time. Recently, and I have been, please confirm if you can still hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Recently have been receiving a lot of threats, calls through private numbers. I can't even recognize the faces, or not even the faces, but even the voices of people who are calling me to threaten me during the protests when the reject finance bill started. Some back in the month of June, I used to receive, maybe it was my fault in one way or the other, because I'm one of the people who actually started the hashtag reject finance bill, and therefore because of that, and even the continuous organizing and planning and mobilizing that I used to do both within the communities and online, I ended up continuing to receive threats through messages, through calls, and there are people that I really do not know. And at some point, my mom was even threatened. I don't know who these people are, but I think there's a lot of also surveillance in such a way that my mom has been threatened and even sexually assaulted because of that. And therefore, it's really becomes frustrating knowing that every time you're waking up to go to work, something can happen at any given time. All right. So, in terms of...
Please go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of psychological or the emotions, I have really been disturbed for a very long time, but I still continue pressing on, because who else is going to do it if I stop now? There's no one else who's going to pick it up. If I stop, I am the vision bearer, so there's no one else who's going to pick up that. And therefore, I still have to continue pressing on. I still have to continue pushing on. In terms of how I've been able to maneuver that, I've had people around me and even organizations that I've partnered with who are actually stepped in into supporting me through, the psychological bit especially. And even at time maybe when my house was broken into, at least I got support for that, because the guys who came into my house took my households, and including even the organization's equipments and even the files, which really contained very serious and very information that belongs to people. And now even very sensitive. Yeah, thank you. Very sensitive information. And I don't know, whoever took this information, the files, I don't know what they went to do with this kind of information. And therefore, you see that on the other side, it also put my colleagues, it also put the survivors and even the people that we support, the beneficiaries of Raise Your Voice, into risk. And therefore, anyway, through the support that have received from different people, from different organizations that we've partnered with, at least I've been able to, replace the lost items, but even getting the support, psychological support that I really needed. Yeah.
I want us to speak a bit about how you integrate mental health services in your work and why you think it's important, because like you've said, on top of physical security, you may, as the leader of your organization that has a bit more exposure in the international community, it may be easier for you to have access to mechanisms that can support your security, right? Because you are exposed. But at a community level, sometimes there are people who speak out on these issues that may not necessarily know of an organization here or an organization there that provides support services, and that takes a toll on them, right? So there's on top of the
Yeah.
physical security, there's the emotional and psychological distress that this causes, where you're just constantly, and because of my work as well, I know that feeling of like constantly feeling watched, constantly feeling followed,
Yeah.
where you're just opening sometimes it even gets to a point where, like, even when you're opening your window, you just feel like, there can be somebody
Yes.
looking through a tree or something, and people will think you're crazy,
Yes.
but it's a product
Mm.
of things that you've experienced, right? So how do
Yes.
you
Yes.
create support in the community for people who are really messed up, really, honestly, mentally messed up and paranoid,
Yes.
maybe, as a result of this
Mm.
work?
Okay. So for me, and even through the Raise Your Voice organization, what we've been able to do is constantly trying to seek for security funds that can be able to support people within the communities, or people who literally do not have any other kind of support. Whenever
Right.
we work within the communities, whenever we go to the communities, one of the things that I constantly say is that if you experience any harassment, any issue that you're not in a position to really handle, feel free to reach out to me. If it's something that I can manage, trust me, I'll support you. If it's something that maybe other organizations that we partner with can manage, trust me, I'll link you up. And therefore, for me, what we've been doing is just ensuring that every other time, that whether it's a human rights defender or it's just someone within the community who has faced any mental, discrimination, or, mental, I don't know, the emotional, there's something that really needs emotional support. What I constantly do is ensure that I'm reaching out to someone, to organizations, because for us as an organization, we are very young, very small, and we are
Right.
not even financially able to support anyone.
Right.
However, for me, I constantly do write to other organizations and even seek for support. Recently, one of our women human rights defenders within our organization was faced by, she was actually abducted. I think it was, no, it happened sometime in April. She was abducted as she was coming from work, and it's an activity that we as Raise Your Voice had sent her to represent the organization.
Right.
And while she was coming back, she was abducted, and can I say, held hostage for 3 days, being raped by people you do not know, being raped and being violated, all sorts of violations that you can imagine happened to her. And when I learned about it, the first thing, honestly, I didn't think about even, I don't know what to say, but the thing that I did was to write to one of African organizations within Kenya, and I wrote to them and explained what had happened. And of course, I said that I'm doing this on behalf of so and so who has encountered this. I would really be very happy if you could support her through this journey. And for sure, able to support her through the organization. We received some grants that we relocated her for about a month. It was about 35 days. We relocated her for some time, for her to go relax her mind, first of all, to experience a different environment that would help her start healing. Because of course, that moment is really traumatizing. You've been you've encountered fees, and there is no one else to support you, so you can imagine. We came through to ensure that we are giving her the moment to start healing. It's difficult to heal from such a violation, trust me, but at least through that support, she can start healing. So, and
I hear
while
you. I hear
she
you. I
while she was away, we also ensured that we are relocating even her from where she lives. So we found her a place, a house to rent outside that particular area, and moved her to a different part of Nairobi, where she can, start a life again.
amazing.
And also we were able to, through the same support, we were able to also take her through counseling. So she
Awesome.
was able to go through counseling for about 10 or 12, I think 10 sessions.
Okay.
And of course, even up to now, I believe it's gonna take her time, regardless of her going through the psychological support.
Right.
It's gonna take her time, because that's really a very traumatizing event for
Okay.
her to heal. However, through that support, we
I'm going to
we
have to cut you short there. I'm sorry because we're almost out of time, and I wanted
okay.
us to quickly cover the conversation about the Reject Finance Bill. And
Mm,
in this short period that we have, maybe in just a minute or two, if you could run us
mm,
through the importance, because like you said, you specialize in reproductive rights, but
yes,
still played a very critical role in conceptualizing the Reject the Finance Bill campaign. What do you think is the
yes.
importance of dealing with, considering and addressing different needs in society, even if they don't necessarily speak to your
Mm.
niche?
Okay, so basically, in the Reject Finance Bill, one of the reasons that we stepped in, and I stepped in, and even to start conceptualizing about that particular campaign, was because it really touched on very noble things, especially when it comes to reproductive health. You can imagine the taxation of sanitary towels, taxation of pampers,
Right,
taxation of very essential items that women needs when either they are menstruating. The persons living with disability need sanitary towels. They are not sanitary towels, but pampers. They are not only used by children, but they are used even by people living with disability. You can imagine the taxation of even uh, the cancer treatment. These are things, as much as we are into reproductive health, these are very essential things for people within our societies.
right,
Moving even deeper, if I reject finance bill was actually even highlighting issues of taxing land owned, the absolute land owned. So you can imagine someone has already managed at least to buy a plot for themselves, and then now the government wants to continue taxing you. And whenever you're not able to pay for that particular piece of land, trust me, they are going to take it back
right, right.
as the government property. And therefore, that's one of the reasons for me,
I
that
hear
I
you.
felt the need for stepping in. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're about to bring this chat to a close. And maybe I was
Sorry. No.
hoping that we need to bring you to Lusaka so we can go
I know.
deeper.
I should
I
come.
think
I
this
need
is a
to
sign. This is a
this environment.
sign. But quickly before
Yeah.
we wind up, I think I wanted to ask for your closing remarks in under a minute, or to young women who are
Mm,
seeking out positions in leadership. I mean, your journey has been amazing. It's an inspiring journey. The work that you're doing is powerful
mm,
in the community. We can feel its impact on the continent. And, what are your
mm.
final parting words to women who are seeking out leadership?
Thank you, Mia. One of the things that I would really say, I started from nowhere, and I can assure you that I did not know anything about leadership when I started. But I had a passion, I had a vision, and I wanted to accomplish something to ensure that people within my communities, and especially young people who are sex workers and queer persons, are really empowered to take up their positions and even to fight and advocate for their own rights. And therefore, what I could encourage young people who would want to take leadership is that you need to start now. Do not wait until you go to school or so that you attain a degree or PhD, then you can step into leadership. No, you need to start now, and then constantly acquaint yourself or continue learning while you're there. Look out for workshops, look out for something, trainings that can really inspire you, that can teach you, that can mold you into a better leader, because we learn every day. Even myself, I learn, I relearn, and I unlearn every other day to ensure that I'm becoming a better leader and not just being like sort of a manager. Because for managers, they are just there to direct people on what to do, but for leaders, you do with the people within your scope. So
Awesome.
It is for people to take up the initiative to actually start learning and learn and relearn every other day, and let them find out or seek out for those workshops or trainings, or even maybe a school where they can learn about leadership. But the most important thing is that you do not really have even to pay a single cent or anything for you to learn about leadership. There are various opportunities online, like Alison. You can use that to Google everything that you would want to read about leadership, and you will be aligned soon enough. Also get mentors, because it's unless you get someone to really mentor you, that is the only way that you can also be able to achieve something, because you will learn from their experiences and also their mistakes.
Right.
Yeah. Over.
Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing, the revolutionary Doris Kathia.
I know.
Doris, was so grateful for you joining us on Conversations from the Continent. It's been
Thank you
an
so much for
amazing
inviting me.
chat. And already I can tell that we still have a lot more to unpack. And it's a shame we have to cut short.
Yeah.
But we hope to hear from you, and definitely we will keep you in our radar so that you can continue to mentor and inspire young Africans. So we're thankful to you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we wish you well, and we support you in your endeavors. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll catch up with you ASAP. Bye-bye.